Okay, in this episode of Shadow Reviews, I am going to be reviewing the actual both seasons of the Adult Swim series Ballmasterz 9009. And I gotta say, this is truly pathetic. Now, everyone on the internet, even on the Adult Swim YouTube page, call this show an anime tribute. I, however, am seeing more of a bitterness towards anime. Ballmasterz Z is not an anime tribute. It's an anime parody. Believe me when I say it's not funny. I would know this myself because I actually wrote a screenplay that was meant to be a tribute to shonen anime. And it treats what it's meant to be a tribute to with way more respect than Ballmasterz 9009 ever could, or would be willing to. And I'm just gonna say this right off the bat. This is the kind of show that reeks of bitterness. In all fairness, this show is basically one overglorified fuck you to anime. And I know that, a lot of these networks would love the concept of Ballmasterz Z because, since anime became really popular in 1998 with the debut of the anime adaptation of Pokemon, Japanese anime has been proving that it is way superior to American TV. And this is the kind of show that, whether intentional or subconsciously, reflects how incredibly pissed off the writers and directors at Adult Swim are that shows like Dragon Ball Super, My Hero Academia, and Black Clover is basically what's bringing in Adult Swim's rating. They are pissed over the fact that anime gets ratings, and a Rick and Morty knockoff, which to an extent Ballmasterz 9009 definitely is, does not. When it comes to ratings, anime brings ratings in. Their crap, the typical adult cartoon that tries to be as edgy as possible with horrible animation and making as many sex jokes as possible, does not bring in ratings. And the people who write Ballmasterz 9009 are really pissed off about that. And it's kind of obvious that they're using their show Ballmasterz Z, which could easily be considered a Rick and Morty knockoff, in a way, to essentially vent their frustrations. That they write for a network that gets better ratings when they import shows from Japan rather than letting someone who actually works for the company create their own show. Because adult animation kind of has this reputation for being crap. Where, on the other hand, Japanese anime actually treat their viewers, more specifically their male viewers, with respect. And believe me when I say, cartoons aimed at adults don't really do that well unless they're a major hit, like Aqua Teen Hunger Force, Robot Chicken, or Rick and Morty. Even something like Mr. Pickles, that was an attempt to cash in on what made Moral Oral good, without realizing what made it good in the first place, only went 5 seasons, but it was met with terrible reception and was eventually canned. A wise man once said that Rick and Morty is the kind of show that might spawn rip-offs. And believe me when I say that Ballmasterz 9009 is indeed the first of those rip-offs. I mean, the concept is simple. Take something like how Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland took Back to the Future, parody it, and boom, instant show. All you need to do is throw in adult humor and sex jokes. Even though that is not how it works. The only thing outside of a reference in Rick and Morty that is attached to Back to the Future is the pilot for the show. And the pilot is not canon. I'm not bashing this show after only having just seen a few clips on the internet. I've actually watched it, and it is not as good as I thought it would be. And with that established, now I'm gonna go through the Ballmasterz 9009 Wikipedia page and use their episode guide to basically go through everything that's important, every episode that's important, to basically show you what a steaming pile of crap this is. Even though not every part of it is crap. In fact, Ballmasterz 9009 is outright crap. And I say that in the fact that I've actually looked up what I couldn't watch and watch episodes that I thought would be good, and only one of them was actually good. To Catch a Princess was the only episode of this show that didn't suck. The first 2 episodes are about Gaz getting kicked off the team known as the Boom Boom Boys, and essentially joining the Leptons and trying to find a way to backstab them so she can get back on her old team. Episode 4 was the only decent episode in the series, and I will review it some point in the future. Episode 7 is about Dee Dee breaking up with Leto because he shows complete disinterest in her. Episode 8 features Ace, who is apparently like KO, where the Wikipedia page said he was 12. The show says he's 10, but apparently he's young enough to be wearing footy pajamas. Essentially, the team doesn't want anything to do with him, so spending 20 minutes with Gaz, this kid ends up with a drug addiction and turns into a parody of Akira. And this is a kid who volunteers at an animal shelter. I mean, it's kind of hard to make his pain funny. Back to the Rick and Morty comparison, there is a reason as to why Morty's pain can be made funny on Rick and Morty, where Ace's pain is basically something that you can't laugh at. And it's the fact that Morty can be just as bad, or sometimes even worse than Rick. I mean, just look at the time that he destroyed his original reality in Season 1 just because he wanted to make the hot girl fall in love with him. Episode 9 is about Gaz trying to lose her beer belly. The Season 10 finale is more or less it's Ex Machina, so that Season 2 could actually happen. And I'm pretty sure that's the point where the writers, whether subconsciously or knowing it, knew that they could not surpass Rick and Morty, and the only thing they made was a fuck you to anime. And so, even though they got another season, they ended it with an Ex Machina, and in Season 2, they just let their bitterness seep out. Season 2 is about Ace being depressed that he's an orphan, so Gaz and Baby Doll get robots to pretend to be his long-lost parents. Even the depressed sad sack, Leto, who has no brain whatsoever, could tell that those are not Ace's parents. The denial that this kid goes through is horrific. I mean, if someone as stupid as Leto could tell that these aren't Ace's real parents, then I'm pretty sure Ace would have figured that out himself on site if his abandonment issues weren't so through the roof. Then the robots try to make him into a robot. And Ace is so screwed up about this that he doesn't want to smash these things until the end of the episode where he does. I mean, this is not funny. Morty's suffering because he finds out the future where Jessica is with him on his deathbed is because she's a hospice nurse in the future is funny because of what an asshole Morty was in that episode. The pain Morty went through was ironic and deserved. The pain this kid goes through is not funny. Episode 2 is about Gaz getting an embarrassing sci-fi STD. Episode 3 is about Baby Ball wanting a humanoid body. Jeez, these plots are so stupid. Episode 4 is a Vampire Hunter D parody. I guess since they had a character named Dee Dee, they just decided to make fun of that show. As a non-fan, I can't really get offended, but I can see the bitterness. This is where the bitterness towards anime begins to show. Episode 15 is about them doing some if you wish it, you want it program. It's just stupid. Episode 20 is basically what I can only assume is a cliffhanger where they go into space, with everything in between this one and the Vampire Hunter D parody essentially just being stupid. This is not a love letter to anime. This is a fuck you to anime. Okay, now I'm gonna go through the characters, starting with who we can only assume is our main character, Ace. Ace is pretty much just the typical orphan protagonist, because a lot of main characters in anime are orphans. And like in the episode that started season 2, they pretty much play this for laughs, which is not funny. The pain this kid went through was something that made you feel for him. And about that episode's ending, I mean, in all fairness, it was crap. It would have been way better for Dee Dee to just come out, lie to Ace's face, and say that she's his mother. I mean, if this kid is that torn up about being an orphan, it would just make more sense for Dee Dee to lie to him, say that she's his mom, give him some half-assed reason as to why she had to be out of his life for at least a decade. And if Ace is truly that torn up about being an orphan, he will most likely buy it. That would have been a better ending than the shit ending we got. Okay, moving on to Gaz. I mean, apparently Ace looked up to her in the first episode before recruiting her to join and become captain of his team. But, okay, I'm just going to explain her character right out the gate. She's 100% self-destructive. There is no vice that she won't partake in. And unfortunately, if Ace looked up to her, he's most likely going to have a bad future ahead of him. I mean, this woman does it all. Has sex constantly, drinks constantly, does drugs, huffs glue. She even admits in the episode that was a parody of Vampire Hunter D that she will try anything as long as it's a vice. If a new vice is introduced to her, she will indulge in it instantly. Oh, and then there's the fact she has an addictive personality, as shown in episode 4, when she basically plays a computer game for over 12 hours straight without sleep or even going to the bathroom. And like I said before, if Ace is young enough to still be wearing footy pajamas, then Gaz is one of the last people he should be around. I mean, she's one of the worst possible influences on the life of someone under the age of 18. I mean, not only could this kid pick up some of her habits, I have no doubt that she'd be 100% supportive of him drinking, doing drugs, having sex, even if the doctors say it's unhealthy. She would support it and probably tell him to do it. Next character up on the chopping block is Dee Dee. I mean, I guess she's supposedly a parody of characters such as Launch from Dragon Ball or Sakura from Naruto. You know, the kind of girly girl who appears sweet, but then we find out she's a total psycho. Because, yeah, that joke hasn't been done to death already. Now, a real deconstruction of this kind of character would point out that this archetype of the gentle girly girl who's actually a psycho archetype has been done to death. Point out how stupid it is, and basically make it obvious that no man wants a relationship with her. And yeah, if you were deconstructing characters like this, you might want to do an episode where the heroes actually bring this up in a meta statement, would not be scared of telling her off or throwing her in an insane asylum. Hell, I've seen characters like this on Andy Griffith, and that aired in the 60s. Okay, next character, Baby Ball. Baby Ball, I'm pretty sure this guy is voiced by whoever played Shake on Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and that's kind of his entire character. He's essentially a much less abrasive Shake from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. He and Ace fuse into Ballmaster, but in all fairness, this premise kind of seems stupid. I mean, if I got something that turned me into some kind of robot cyborg juggernaut, I would use it to fight crime and take revenge on everyone who screwed me over in life. Kind of like how Stanley Ipkiss did in the first 2 issues of The Mask. Or, if I had my own equivalent to Baby Ball, I'd be fusing with him to essentially succeed where Stanley Ipkiss, comic Stanley Ipkiss, failed in the first 2 issues of The Mask. Essentially, get revenge on anyone I have a grudge against, and fight crime as well as save innocent civilians. Flip Champion here just his whole character is going on and on about his tragic past and his teacher, and that's pretty much his entire character. He basically just goes on in long dramatic rants about how he promised his teacher how he'd never use this technique, even though he uses it anyway. Yeah, and there are techniques in anime, such as the 8 Inner Gates, or the Reaper Death Seal, that are forbidden techniques. But the thing that the writers forgot when they wrote characters like Flip Champion is that there's a reason why these techniques are forbidden. If Rock Lee or Might Guy uses the 8 Inner Gates for too long, or possibly, or goes too high, it will kill them. The Reaper Death Seal itself kills its user once the technique has been completed. Same with the Evil Containment Wave in the first Dragon Ball series, not counting Super. In other words, there's a reason why techniques like these are forbidden. I mean, a lot of characters in anime also have tragic backstories, like Sasuke seeing his older brother kill most of their family and then embarking on a quest to kill him that involved betraying his homeland and then finding out that Itachi murdered their family to save his homeland because they were traitors. Tons of characters in Dragon Ball have tragic backstories. From Master Roshi's whole thing with his mentor dying to save the world from King Piccolo, to the countless characters in Dragon Ball Z who have tragic backstories, including the genocide of the Saiyans, Trunks' alternate future where it's a post-apocalyptic nightmare where most of the Z fighters are dead and he's the only one alive, and the world is constantly being terrorized by the androids. Even Baby, the antagonist of Dragon Ball GT's first season, had a tragic backstory where his people were wiped out by the Saiyans. And in all fairness, a lot of superheroes and supervillains have tragic backstories. I mean, Ballmasterz 9000 is not breaking new ground. Assholes throughout the entertainment industry have been making basically what they think is commentary on stuff like this since the Tick. In all fairness, Flip Champion does nothing more than go on and on about his mentor, as well as go on and on about a forbidden technique that he promised his mentor he'd never use seconds before he then uses it, and in my eyes, it just makes him a one-note mascot joke. Leto is a depressed wreck, and he writes poetry. That's all I can say about his character, because, as far as I can tell, the writers gave him no character outside of that. Yeah, and like Flip Champion, he's just another one-note mascot joke. Well, I guess he also likes cooking, but from where I'm standing, this guy is completely useless. In fact, when I first saw the show, I thought he was supposed to be a stoner. Okay, now I know I said I would be limiting myself to just characters who would talk, but I gotta mention this guy. This is the creator of the game. I think his name is Crazar or something like that. And apparently the point of the game is to make this grinning Joker laugh. I mean, in all fairness, it's almost as if the writers put that in because they knew how stupid this concept was. I'm pretty sure that the only reason that the Leptons were made athletes was so that the animators wouldn't have to design an individual home for each and every character. I mean, after all, Ballmasterz 9009 is an anime parody. Black Clover was able to do it. One Piece was able to do it. And even American franchises like the X-Men were able to pull off having their heroes living under the same roof without putting them in fistfights for at least half of every episode to make them look heroic, or in this case, fit the bill of being heroes. I mean, I'm sure the whole Gundam-style military thing, I'm pretty sure the people who wrote this piece of crap would see it as cliche, and they definitely didn't want to make the Leptons superheroes, which comes off as a brain-dead idea. And by that, I mean a missed opportunity. A completely missed opportunity. I'm gonna say this, even though anyone who likes this piece of crap would chew me up for it, but Ballmasterz 9009 should have been a superhero show. I mean, it would actually be the logical route to take these characters down. Ace fuses with Baby Ball, and they become this robotic behemoth, and since I'm pretty sure Ace is the one in control, I'm pretty sure he would just use Baby Ball's abilities to fight crime, similar to The Mask, even though I know I keep making this comparison. That would have been way better than what we got. I mean, just think about it. Ace would have been our main character, superhero, and the hero's secret identity. Baby Ball, more or less, would be the item that would transform our main character into his alter ego, similar to the Mask or a Power Morpher from Power Rangers, duh. And Gaz would more or less be the comic relief character. I mean, she could have been the drunken next-door neighbor who would babysit Ace whenever Dee Dee and Leto have to go out, and her essentially being one to indulge in any vice possible would essentially be the means for him to sneak out, transform, and fight crime. In all fairness, if that had been the premise for this show, I'm pretty sure it actually would have been good and would not be the over-glorified sack of crap that it is. I mean, Adult Swim tries to pass this off as a love letter to anime, but I'm seeing more hatred than love, and way more bitterness than respect. Premise aside, these characters, some of them were good, some of them not so good, and in all fairness, they could have been used a lot better. I mean, these characters were not used to their full potential. I'm pretty sure the guy who created this show was hoping that it would be the next Rick and Morty by making it an attack on anime, but this kind of proves how, well, because he probably assumes that Rick and Morty was attacking Back to the Future, when that's not even the case. The pilot was the only part of Rick and Morty that was a Back to the Future parody. And if these characters had been used on a different show, I'm pretty sure they would have been better, 'cause they definitely weren't used to their full potential here. I really gotta say, it is unbelievably ironic that it's Adult Swim making this fuck you to anime. Because, well, let me give you a little history lesson. Anime got its start in America with the anime adaptation of Pokemon, which aired on Kids WB back in the late 90s. And then, in 1999, Dragon Ball Z aired on Toonami, which, like Adult Swim and Kids WB, was run by Warner Brothers, which paved the way for other anime, such as Yu-Gi-Oh!, which aired on Kids WB, and a whole sorts of other anime, such as Yu Yu Hakusho, One Piece, Zatch Bell, and Naruto to air on Toonami, giving Warner Brothers a lot of ratings, but they didn't have to do much to get these shows except for sign contracts. So, in short, it's actually because of Warner Brothers that anime actually got a foothold in the West. And when Cartoon Network's ratings dropped in 2008, in all fairness, getting rid of Toonami was the stupidest decision they could make. Because the anime that was airing on that time slot was way better than anything they were putting out at the time. Better than CN Real, way better than Ben 10, and way better than either Chowder or Flapjack. And the truth is that without Cartoon Network, people would not know what anime is. They would have written the style off as exclusive to video games. And eventually, I think they might see it as a mistake and try to capitalize on it with the anime-inspired cartoon. But this was more or less to try and create a cartoon that could be as popular as an anime. With shows like Steven Universe, Mighty Magiswords, OKKO, and lastly, Mau Mau. With Disney actually going so far as to make their own, because, let's face it, what Jello Apocalypse implied was true. Disney wanted their own Steven Universe, but in my opinion, they don't even know what made Steven Universe work. But truth be told, I really don't think that their experiment worked as well as they thought it did. My point being is that it's extremely ironic that Adult Swim, a network that's controlled by Warner Brothers, the company that laid the groundwork for anime's success in the first place, basically so they wouldn't have to work as hard. They canceled Pinky and the Brain, Animaniacs, Freakazoid, and I think Tasmania. Basically, so they wouldn't have to work as hard. Pokemon, the work had already been done. Of course, they could replace the shows I mentioned with what amounts to just filler, cheap ideas that don't need real thought, so they can keep this cash cow. And after what they did, they have the gall to make a show that's basically just a fuck you to anime. I mean, I could definitely believe that this is the writers at Adult Swim burning off their frustration because any ideas they cough up play second fiddle to Japanese anime on a network that isn't even Japanese. It's controlled by an American studio. My point in pointing all of this out is that it's kind of Warner Brothers' fault that anime got so popular in America. And Adult Swim, in all fairness, is one of the last... I mean, people who write for Adult Swim are some of the last people who would have the right to complain about how people are now seeing anime as superior to American TV. as they work for the company that caused anime to get a Western audience in the first place. And, yeah, that's not really a joke, as people people on this exact site, YouTube, are pointing out the differences and how, anime is superior to American TV. And it is kind of Warner Brothers' fault. Ergo, someone working for Adult Swim is one of the last people who would have the right to bitch and complain about this fact. And now I'm going to end this review actually talking about bitterness, because this show reeks of American TV's insane level of jealousy, bitterness, and hatred towards Japanese anime. I know that it just pisses them off that anime can appear on any network, even one ran by Disney, and get really good ratings, where they put a lot of thought into the bullshit that they put on cable television and on streaming sites, and they can't even get a fraction of what anime gets. In all fairness, Ballmasterz 9000 really does sound like the kind of show that Adult Swim would rent out to Disney, Nickelodeon, any studio run by Universal, as well as Paramount, just so all these other studios would more or less have an opportunity to vent their frustration over the success of Japanese anime, and how it's better than anything they could cough up. And I am going to end this review by saying, in all honesty, the bulk of American TV is garbage. View more? No, I don't think so.